Hi, today I'm going to do a review on this knife. This is the Ontario Bushcraft Field Knife. I identify a lot with this knife. In fact, it reminds me a lot of a younger version of myself, perhaps Pete as a teen, in that it is tall, skinny, somewhat awkward, has lots of wood, and needs a fair bit of love before it blossoms into a properly good outdoor knife. Let's go into my reasons. Alrighty, so to start with, let's get a handle on the size. So you get a blade of 5 inches and you get a handle of 5 inches. It's a very sort of symmetrical knife. Blade-handle ratio is pretty much bang on the center. Just by way of comparison, this is it next to a cold steel SRK, which has a 6-inch blade. So the blade is like a little bit longer there, but the handle is a little bit shorter. So when you line them both up, they are almost the same size, the SRK winning out by about a half an inch. On the other side of things, let's have a look at it versus an SE4. The SE4, of course, being a 4-inch cutting blade. So as you can see there is about an inch less edge, and the handle a little bit shorter again still. So it's definitely a mid-sized camp knife. Now, they've gone ahead and called it the Bushcraft Field Knife, but Bushcraft is just this series of knives. So they're not saying this is your Bushcraft knife, this is the Bushcraft series Field Knife. So we've got a flat ground blade, which is, you know, not sort of anti-bushcraft, but it's certainly not your sort of little Scandi fine working blade. Sorry, I'll just get that crap off. It's just the ferro rod muck from my testing. See that there? It comes off eventually. Yeah, so it's a full flat grind, and it's in 5160 steel. So that's a mid-carbon steel. Very, very tough stuff, and they leave it at 55 or 56, I think, Rockwell. So it's not going to hold the longest edge in the world. However, I would mainly anticipate this would be a wood or food working knife, provided you don't use nasty stuff like WD-40 on it. And therefore it shouldn't really take too much of a bother to keep it well maintained. I think if you're going to be using it against rope, you might be wanting a different steel. The spine is a flat ground spine, so you can use it with its accompanying ferro rod that does come with the knife. So really, I unboxed the knife, and it made a bit of a poor impression with me, I must admit. So I got it out of the box, and first of all, it comes with this paracord lanyard thing, which is just, I don't know, the only purpose I could see for that is to make the knife more annoying to use. So the idea is you thread it through the lanyard hole, and yeah, not my cup of tea at all. And then it comes with this, you know, it's one of those throwaway sort of, well, not throwaway, I mean it's useful, but it's a Chinese like fire steel that you get off the internet for like $2. So it comes with them as well. It's not got any identifying brands or features or marks on it. It's just fine, but it's definitely trying to, you know, a bit back to me as a teenager as an analogy. The knife's a little bit of a poser, and the main thing that sort of caught my eye when I was looking over it was having a bit of a look over the blade tang and the billboarding and whatnot. I couldn't help but think, oh, papyrus? I'm just kidding, I didn't actually throw it away. Ha! Again, like me as a teenager, loves papyrus. Hey, got an ancient Egypt project due? Oh, what font to use for the title page? Papyrus. Yeah, so I don't know, just a little bit cheesy there, but in the end, it's, you know, purely cosmetic. So overall, it's a pretty, you know, it's a bit of an average knife at first. It's a bit rough. It didn't come with much of an edge at all, so I had to sit down at my Tormek and first put a main edge bevel on it, because it comes with like just a single like V-slap, and like feels like it's about 50 degrees inclusive, just right at the end of the flat grind. So what I had to do is I had to go on my Tormek, and I had to put a longer bevel in. You can see I'm still learning the Tormek. There's a couple of little marks there. Had to put this longer bevel on first, and then had to put a shorter micro bevel on second. So just to make it a bit, obviously cut better and also be a bit tougher. Because I did plan on doing my standard YouTuber testing with this knife. So I did that, and then the knife sort of had a semblance of usability. And then when you get it in hand, you actually notice that it's not too bad at all. It's really, really light. It's light, and it is, as I said, a bit lanky, but you therefore have a lot of extra handle length. Very much the whole blade weighs about 140 grams, so it's much, much lighter than most other knives. So this SRK is probably about twice the weight of it. I mean, it is thicker and everything as well, but it's a very light little nimble knife. So again, making that lanyard paracord thing seem a bit pointless, because you're certainly not going to be very successful using this as a chopping knife. So anyway, I took it out and I did some testing on it. In terms of the sheath, you get a pretty reasonable DeSantis nylon sheaths, provided you're okay with sheaths that aren't like, this. Provided you're okay with not having a Kydex, super clip wonder on your hip, this is just a basic good sheath. It's not going to be, it's going to be very weather resistant and very element resistant, all that sort of thing. It's got a pocket at the front, which for me perfectly fits my Leatherman rebar, which is cool. And yeah, the knife isn't held in by anything but the strap. It's really loose fit in that plastic sleeve, but the strap is definitely enough, and it's a good quality strap as well. It's got, the extra little pull tab bit there, so it's kind of reinforced underneath that tab, so that's cool. You have to slide it over your belt, of course. There is a bit of space underneath, so some people hate that. You could always stitch it there and there if you're too fussed. In the end, it's an average sheath, and it's a good sheath for for the money. It's better than getting like a junky one of those Schrade sheaths. They're terrible. This is actually well stitched and well put together, and the pocket is of good, useful utility size. So it's cool. It's fine. It's not amazing, but it's good for a factory sheath. Nothing really bothering me about it there at all. Wow. So after a bit of battening, a bit of woodcraft, a bit of fire prep, all that sort of stuff that you do when you're getting the feel for a knife, my initial impressions are pretty, they're positive. They're not, it's a shame they have to put an edge on the knife, or I had to put an edge on my knife. If you got one of these, please tell me in a civil way in the comments if yours came sharp, because I'd be interested to know, because usually Ontarios do come sharp, but but mine did not come sharp, as you can see. I tried to cut, as you saw when I tried to cut paper with it straight out the box. Just horrible. So the spine's really nice and sharp. It does strike your ferro rod well if this little attachment here with the ferro rod doesn't float your boat, which, I mean, really, it should. But it's overall, it's a good knife, and its good attributes are that it's really, really light, and it's quite nimble, and it's quite thin, so it's going to be good for like cutting up food, and probably even as a skinning or a hunting knife, not too bad at all, providing the carbon steel attribute doesn't bother you. I mean, it is full tang. It's strong enough to withstand battening. It did. I wasn't ever bothered about it, because even though it's a little bit thinner, just in terms of thickness, so you've got 3/16 here on the SRK, So you got about 1/8 of an inch or so on the Bushcraft Field Knife. So it never really felt, A, because of the steel, and B, just because it's full tang and seems fairly strong. Wasn't bothered about the stresses of battening on it, but probably not the best knife for battening, being flat ground and thin. Anyway, so it did all the jobs fine. The handle's comfy. It's not too bad. It's, you know, you can hold it in a couple of different ways. It's, you know, the flat spine digs into your thumb a bit if you do decide to do some of this sort of stuff with it, but not too bad. Overall, I guess the knife is not too bad. It's a funny one. I like the look of it. I like the hardwood handles. It's cool. They do probably limit the complete indestructibility of the knife just a little bit. As far as I can tell, they are just wood. I think they'll probably be stabilized in some way, but they'll need a bit of oil and a bit of care. So get out your linseed spray or whatnot and just keep them nice. You can always, the good thing about wood is you can re-contour them as well. If you find yourself needing a bit more or a bit less in some places, you can, you know, get some sandpaper on there and add some, you know, a little bit of sort of gripping on the sides or whatever. You can rough up with a file if you think it's too smooth. Wood does have some good benefits, and, you know, in terms of in the hand, it stops your finger from going up because of the guard, which is nice but not obnoxious, and the same with the back, nice but not obnoxious. So yeah, just a really well done, slender handle. So it's quite different to the rest of my knives. Like, I don't really have a knife like this. It's nimble, and it's you know, slender. It's very much just a belt knife. I would suggest for maybe light backpacking or something similar. But for your you know, your main sort of survival or bushcraft tasks, I think you'd be better off getting something a little bit like the Volkniven, perhaps the S1. I'll grab that out. So this is the Volkniven S1. I think this is probably a better knife, or I think it's definitely a better knife than the Bushcraft Field Knife, and it will do the tasks just as well. Of course, it's about an extra probably $130 or so. This is a $150 knife in Australia, which in America is probably about, you know, $90 or something like that. And this one here is, you know, this is a $300 knife almost. The steel on this one holds its edge a little bit better, but this is probably a tougher steel. Of course, the thickness is again different. But in terms of just general camp tasks, it's not too bad for the money. It's just a bit of a meh review for me on this one, but I do like it. I'm going to keep it. I'm going to try using it some more. I'm going to use it as a bit of an experiment knife with different edge styles, because I figure, hey, they gave me nothing to start with, so how can I go wrong, really? Nothing really to destroy. So that's the Bushcraft Field Knife by Ontario. What do you think? Does it float your boat at all? Let me know in the comments, and stay tuned for my next video. See you dudes.